Fun fact, in a previous life, I identified as an art historian. And I admit to being a little snarky in the past when people overuse, in my opinion, the word curate. And now, here I am doing it like everyone else. I want you to curate your feed. Curate your feed. It's one of the things I work on with my one-on-one Vedge Your Best coaching clients. And what do I mean by curating your feed? I mean really paying attention to your social media and the other media, all the information that you consume. I encourage you to be deliberate and thoughtful, not just about the food you consume or the products you buy, but to the information you consume as well. And we'll talk more about that in the future. But in a nutshell, with my clients, I mean encouraging them to be very intentional about the information that they read, that they listen to, that they scroll through and consume. In my opinion, anyone even leaning into a plant-based or vegan lifestyle should include Howard Jacobson and his podcast, Plant Yourself, in their social media feed. Today, on the podcast, I get to share my conversation with Howard about his newest book, You Can Change Other People. Great title, huh? Howard Jacobson, PhD, is co-founder and chief behavioral scientist at WellStart Health. Howard is a thought leader, a health coach, a public health expert, a teacher, a researcher, a podcaster, and a writer, among other pursuits. And subscribing to his podcast, Plant Yourself, and going through his extensive back catalog is in itself a valuable free education in topics of nutrition, behavior change, sustainability, the environment, gardening, public health, public science, and fitness, among many, many other topics. And today, we get to talk about his newest book with executive business consultant Peter Bregman. It comes out in September of 2021. You can change other people. The 4 steps to help your colleagues, employees, even family up their game. So today we're going to be talking about you can change other people, and you can learn in that book so many great strategies that may have been developed in the business world, but they are applicable everywhere. And these are strategies that Howie to his friends, uses every day with his coaching clients. If you are a fan of Howard's, you are going to enjoy hearing him talk about his work and this book. And if you're new to Howard, you are in for a treat. And I'm pretty sure you will be binging through his podcasts before the day is out. You can change other people. Today on Vedge Your Best. Howard Jacobson, welcome to Vedge Your Best. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm thrilled to be here, Michele.
Well, I've talked about you many times on the podcast. I was lucky enough to be on your podcast, Plant Yourself.
It wasn't luck.
Oh, thank you. I played the long game too, apparently. We were just talking about that, but thank you. Maybe it wasn't luck. And I've spoken many times on my podcast about you, that you are one of the mentors, one of the people who accompanied me, especially on my early journey towards plant-based eating and veganism, and the people you brought to my attention in that area. And now you're accompanying me as a professional plant-based person, a professional vegan. So that's really fun for me.
For all that accompanying, my iPhone is not giving me credit for the steps. So
no.
I'm feeling a little gypped.
Yeah, well, I guess we're doing it without the cardio benefits. All right. So the interesting thing is you've got a new book. You've how many books have you put out so far, Howard?
Well, it's hard to say because I wrote a couple that never went anywhere, and one that never got credited to me. But I guess since working on in the plant-based world, there was two with Colin Campbell, one with Garth Davis, two with Josh Lajani, and now this was, I guess, the sixth with Peter Bregman.
You have quite a body of work in this area. And the interesting thing is Peter Bregman, I don't know if you call him a colleague or a mentor. How do you describe Peter in terms of your relationship with him?
Yeah, he's always been a teacher and mentor and a friend. And now we have been colleagues and now we're colleagues again. So.
Yeah, because he's more comes through his mentoring and teaching from kind of executive coaching and leadership. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's true of anyone who wants to make a difference in a field should bring things in from somewhere else, right? So, if like if you're a health coach and you want to learn more, like, this is kind of how governing bodies are set up. There's a certain set of places that they want you to go for continuing education. And those places are probably the last places that you're actually going to learn something new and valuable because it's all, inside baseball. So, I thought that what I could bring to the plant-based world was business coaching. And so that was the start of it. And then when I was struggling to help people who were stuck with certain patterns, I looked to neurology and to polyvagal theory, and I look to our understanding of stress. And so I'm constantly trying to bring things in from outside the field, which I think is where progress happens.
Well, I think that brings us back to the book you've just released, because there's a lot of information in there about how to stay curious and be open to other fields and other things that maybe you even have some pushback towards. So the name of the book is, and I want to make sure I'm looking down so I can say it correctly, You Can Change Other People. And the subheading is The 4 Steps to Helping Colleagues, Employees, even Family Up Their Game.
Wow. Did you print it out?
I have it in my notes here.
Oh, okay. That's dedicated. Waste that much printer ink.
No, it's not actually handwritten. But well, actually, I printed out not the whole. You were kind enough. Your publisher's kind enough to send me a PDF. I just printed out the table of contents because that was a good reminder for some of the subject matter that was in it. But it's worth printing out. Very much worth printing out. But it's got a watermark on it, so I can't release it to anyone.
Okay. I remember in the old days when I was just doing, sort of online teaching, and we were all worried about piracy and people stealing our stuff. There was actually this program you could buy that would, if you bought my PDF, it would watermark your social security number on it.
Oh, wow.
And your name, so that you would be really reluctant to share it with anyone.
That's kind of genius. It sounds wrong, but it sounds kind of genius too. It's like holding your firstborn hostage or something like they did in the ancient diplomatic circles.
That's a historical reference I need to look up.
Oh, well, maybe you don't. I'm kind of a geek for that sort of thing. But so you can change other people. Who doesn't want to do that, Howard?
Yeah, it's funny because I posted when I was starting to work on the book, I was looking for kind of examples that would be meaningful. And so I posted on my Facebook page, can you, asking people, tell me, some stories about people that you'd like to change. And everybody wrote back, I don't try to change other people. I just like they were all like quoting the party line.
Yeah, that's my party line. That's a party line I teach. Change yourself, don't change other people. And I think when I read it, because I had that in my brain, don't change other people, change yourself. But it is a complimentary message with this book, I think, because the responsibility still remains on the person who would like to do some changing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we think about it is, So I've been working in the garden this morning, and I was clearing a path near the bed where we have the basil. And we have like 7 different varieties of basil, and they're just, they're all beautiful and amazing. And, you could say, well, my wife grew the basil, but she didn't. She can't grow basil. Basil grows itself. But if it hadn't been for my wife, there would be no basil growing. Those seeds are self-generating. They are self-organizing. They have intelligence. They have will. They have desire. They have qualities and characteristics. They can become themselves fully. And if my wife hadn't taken them out of these seed packs and put them in the ground and watered them and weeded and put them in the right place with the right amount of sun and the right soil, they wouldn't have grown. So did she change them? Like, people naturally grow and change to become the more authentic, better, more capable, more fully actualized versions of themselves. And one of the things that we typically do is we get in the way of that.
What are some ways we get in the way of that?
Well, by wanting them to change, right? So that, like,
faster,
yeah, like, what, Michele, here's what you should do. I want to do the mic angle that you have right there. It's not quite right. I want you to change, lower the stand, have it pointing up. Like, all of a sudden, I've taken ownership. I've decided that something's a problem for you, and I'm going to tell you how to solve it. So at the beginning of the book, we talk about the 4 powers that people need in order to autonomously change. And the first one is ownership. That if I don't own it, if someone else is making me do it. So you think about, the classic lack of ownership is the school system, where kids come in, they come in with all this excitement and interest and, curiosity. Like, look at babies, how curious they are. Everything goes in the mouth. Wow. I spent some time with my 3-year-old nephew, and like, every other question is why, like, you could go crazy from their intense curiosity. And, we can cure it with schooling, right? Like, here's what you got to study, here's why. And so you take away ownership. And then when we take away ownership, then the best teachers are the ones who can do classroom management,
right?
Who can say, oh, that teacher was so good, he got the kids interested in astronomy. Like, how could you not be like, what did we have to do to their minds to make them default to not interested, right? Or history, like, like, now I'm really curious about the firstborn children of diplomats. Like, I got to go look that up, because that's like really, exciting and curious. So I'm just reading. Judd Brewer just came out with a recent book on anxiety. And in the book, he makes the case for curiosity, because he's all into like mindfulness and, curious exploration. He talks about the difference between like deficit-based curiosity. Like, when you think, like, what was the name of that actor who was in that film? And then it drives you crazy till you look it up. And then there's sort of, opportunity-based curiosity. I can't remember exactly how he calls it, but it's sort of like, now you just told me something about, diplomats and their children being held hostage. I didn't know anything about that. There was no deficit, but all of a sudden I'm curious and I'm excited and I want to learn more. So now I have ownership. You didn't say, you know what, Howie, I want you to go look up this, or this is something you need to know. We had an organic conversation. All of a sudden now I'm taking ownership for, I want to find out that fact. So now, stop me. How are you going to stop me? I'm going to go
Exactly.
Look it up. But if you said, give me 2,000 words on the history of diplomatic hostage taking among firstborns, like, who the heck wants to do that?
Well, that's very good. And it's also, you come to this with one of your many, many careers and professions has been teacher, no?
Yes. Yeah, that was the first one. That's really the archetypal profession that I have. It's like,
interesting.
When I'm teaching, I'm in my element. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. Well, you are certainly an incredible communicator and teacher. At least I have been super influenced by you and learned so much from you. And that you were reminding me that the idea of that when someone is stuck in a problem, this is it from your book, You Can Change Other People. When someone's stuck in a problem, they'll always have a narrative about it. And what you just said kind of reminded me that idea that we stop being curious about
Mm.
certain things when there is some negativity, there's some feeling of fear or judgment or defensiveness. We can kind of shut down with a story. And something perhaps you've seen with children also, when they're in a classroom environment, they can be shut down, that natural curiosity. So part of what you talk about in your book, one of the steps is to try to be very curious, to make an alliance between yourself and the person you want to change a little or a lot, and then show real curiosity about why you're coming at it from different ideas. Can you tell me a little bit of that sort of process?
Yeah, yeah, and just the basis is neurological. That as organisms trying to survive on this planet, we are either looking for opportunities, new resources, food, mates, places to sleep, or avoiding threats. And if you roll the dice, it's probably a better idea to focus on avoiding threat, because if you don't eat today, you can eat tomorrow. But if you get eaten today, you're not eating tomorrow. Right? So our visual cortex, all our senses narrow when we feel like we're under threat. And one of the best ways to feel like you're under threat is to feel frustrated, angry, confused, struggling with a problem. Right. So then we can get very shut down. So that's why, the two of the steps are really about flipping from negative to positive. So that, if you're curious about, it's like, if you ever have a conversation with someone who is genuinely curious about you, like, what a pleasure. It's like better than a massage. It's like someone like really is interested and finds you fascinating. Mm-hmm. Right. Look what you just did. You nodded and you made sounds. Like, that's like, woo, I love that. Right. That's like food. Like, tell me more. Like, oh, wow, I'm important. I matter. Right. Like, that is, talk about a fundamental human need to be esteemed by your tribe, to matter, to belong. So like what you're doing right now, I know people, your podcast aren't watching. They should. You gotta have a YouTube channel because you're such a good visual listener.
One of these days. But so you're saying that if instead of me hearing that you're interested in me, I hear that you are dissatisfied, or you think I should be doing it differently, or I ought to change, there's a whole different motivational triad that's been kicked off.
Yeah. Can't you feel it? Think about the people in your life who are like, you need to change your hair, or, are you going to wear that? Right. Like, I could feel the bristling.
Welcome to my growing up time with my mother. Hair and what I'm wearing were a constant issue.
And I'm sure she had every best intention.
Of course. Yeah.
So, but, like in the health field, one of the things that health coaches who come to take my training often have studied is motivational interviewing. And I don't have a problem with motivational interviewing in theory, but the way it's almost always deployed is, okay, I know what I want you to do, and now I'm going to ask you questions to try to get you to be motivated in the same way. Like, well, what would be the benefits of giving up smoking? Right. And I've got this, like I'm playing golf and I got my eye on the hole the whole time. And I'm just trying to move you there. And yeah, I can't do it directly, but it's like the teacher who's trying to get you to say the right answer.
It's a little bit like that kind of Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? That kind of a little bit of aggressiveness and a little bit of like, you and I both know what you should do, instead of,
Yeah. But the tools of motivational interviewing can be deployed beautifully if they come from a place of genuine curiosity. Like, gee, tell me about smoking. Tell me what's it like? Like, I've never smoked a cigarette. I don't know. What's it like to smoke? Like, if you come from that particular, and then the person feels safe, they don't feel judged, they can open up and they can say, they might say, oh, it's the best thing in the world. I absolutely love it. It calms me down. It centers me. It gives me a buzz. It helps me think clearer. And I'm like, wow, that sounds great. So, you're here because you're supposed to quit. Why would you want to quit? Like genuinely,
Right.
It sounds awesome.
Right.
like, well, I'm coughing a lot and it's going to take years off of my life. Like, sounds like you're, really conflicted. What's that like? Like, I'm genuinely curious about someone who gets so much benefit and is afraid of the negatives. Like, and can you see how that curiosity can get them to come to a safe place to say, you know what, I could probably get those things another way, and I really don't want to die young. Like, okay, sounds like you're pretty clear on that. What do you want? What would you like to do?
It really imparts a sense of respect for the person that you're talking to, and a sense that they do know what's best for them. They may not be doing it right at the moment, but they have all the tools they really need to um, do what they want.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so that, I mean, I love that word. I don't even know if we use it in the book, but it could be the title. It's how to speak to people respectfully. And respect comes from the Latin to spec, to look at, like
See.
spectacles, to
Mm.
see, which means if we're superimposing our vision of what they should be over them, then we're not seeing them. Then there's no connection. And the problem is it's not like an ethical thing, like a moral thing, like this is how you should talk to people. But if you want to have influence, you start with where they are, who they are, and you form this alliance so they feel safe with you, and then they can start to open up. Like one of my favorite stories from the book is my co-author Peter Bregman, who's been trying to get off sugar for years. And I've been trying to help him for years. So, it's funny that that's kind of, like we're the experts on this, and neither of us has quite figured it out individually for ourselves or within the relationship. But he's like, I know I shouldn't have that third bowl of ice cream. But when somebody, if I reach for it and somebody says, are you really going to have that third bowl of ice cream? Like, he's like, I'm going to double down.
Definite.
Like, hell yeah, I am. Just watch me.
So let's use that. So obviously you haven't so far changed Peter Bregman's sugar intake. Maybe you have helped him lower it. You said at the beginning that when you asked people about changing other people, most of the feedback you got was, no, I don't change other people. I, on the other hand, was asking this week about who would, that I was going to speak with you, and the title of the book is You Can Change Other People. Everybody wanted to change someone.
Well, the difference is your people are just more honest than my people.
Oh, maybe, because there were a lot of spouses who need to eat differently, apparently, in America.
Yeah, no, that was what was frustrating. It's like we do it all the time, but we're just, these people who've been in my Facebook group were like, oh, I know the answer to this one. That's a trick question.
It comes up, this idea of Peter Bregman and his ice cream, and you as a coach, what kind of techniques you might use to try to respectfully help Peter change, or help one of my clients' husbands change, because this is, I think, in the plant-based community and the vegan community, we are often evangelical and for want of a better word, and missionaries, and we want, and sometimes for excellent reason, we know better.
Right.
So what do we do there? What's one thing we could start to do there?
Well, so I think it all starts with step one, which is to become an ally rather than a critic. Right. So we've seen how the energy of the critic just turns people off and makes them want to run away. And so, if we really want to have that conversation, we have to become an ally. And so the way I like to start is to become an ally of yourself. Right. So a lot of people know, I shouldn't change. I can't help myself. I keep blurting this out. I keep, damaging the relationship. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this? And so let's practice on ourselves by getting in touch with, what's my positive motivation? Right. So the couples therapist, marriage therapist and researcher John Gottman talks about these bids in relationship, where someone can sort of turn towards you, turn away from you, or turn against you in conversation. And this is the most important thing whenever any of that happens, is the couples that don't divorce, you assume positive intent, right, in the other person. So this is really what allyship is about. So what's my positive intent in wanting to change my spouse? It's not that I'm overbearing. It's that I want them to be well. I want them to live a good life. I care about our life together. I care about them being a good role model for our children. Right? It would be nice if we could eat the same foods. It would be nice if I didn't have to cook 2 meals and I had more energy. Right? These are like, get in touch with all the positives. And that's really good practice, because then you're going to have to get in touch with the positives about the other person's behavior and this person who's driving you crazy. Like, why is your spouse eating an unhealthy meat-filled diet? Right? Like, what's their positive intent? Well, most people want to feel good. They want to enjoy life. Right? So eating these foods, it reminds her of her childhood. She's, it's comfortable. She knows how to make it. When she's sad, she can, pop a burger in the toaster and feels better.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these are positives. They're human needs that are quite valid. And so it's like, oh, she wants to feel good. So then we can go and say, well, where's the intersection of what I want and what they want? Where is there a joint outcome that I can imagine for us? And then from that place, you can begin to explore with curiosity. So I would say, like, if you do that work first, so that you've sort of let go of the judgment of the I am better than them, I know better, right? Like, I know better than them is really no different from I am better than them.
Yeah.
In how it plays out.
Yeah. That goes along with the kind of coaching I do, which is typically that how and the plan comes after we've got our thoughts and our feelings and our kind of our whole energy in the right space. Because the plan, if you go, which I know I've done as a parent, is like, no, we're going to do this order, check it off your list. And until you've got that, the energy of connection and why and shared vision, it's just micromanaging a bunch of ticks on a box.
Yeah. I mean, as coaches, we love to solve problems. We love to, like, oh, I know how to do this one. And the truth is we don't know the nuances. And even if the advice is perfect, if it's our advice, we've deprived them of ownership. And the truth is, like, if they could have solved the problem with their current level of thinking, they would have solved it. Right? People barely come to coaching like, hey, I never thought of this before. They're like, I've been trying to lose weight for 30 years. I've tried everything. Right? They've tried everything, but from a particular mindset. So our job as coaches is to sort of loosen that up. And one of the things that invariably happens when I'm coaching someone is that we discover, or they discover with my help, a blind spot. Right? And usually, you talked earlier about like this, the narrative that we have that keeps us stuck. That's the same thing. Like, the blind spot is part of the reason they're stuck. Like, and once they have a different perspective, oh, okay, so I'm eating when I'm tired. So maybe, the insight is, this is not about food management, it's about energy management. Now, all of a sudden, we have 23 new ways to approach it.
Because then the client has his own curiosity or her own curiosity because we're reminding them that what they're doing now makes sense to them. It's perfectly sensible if they're already engaging in that behavior, that activity, or have that proclivity. It's because it makes sense. It's working in some way. So if we can poke holes in it just by being curious and opening, then they get to see it, because what we see doesn't matter.
Yeah. Any bad habit will give you positive reinforcement in the moment of doing it.
Now, one of the questions that came up on one of my followers was specifically about a spouse, well, more than one spouses, two different followers, spouses who the husband feels meat is basically synonymous with eating a masculine diet, a diet that will fuel a man. And in those two cases, an older, middle-aged, slightly older male needs that kind of fuel, that kind of nutrition. So she was like, throwing all kinds of information and Dr. Greger and everybody at him, and it's not working.
Right, right. Yeah. So our first impulse is, hey, watch that scene in Game Changers where they do the erection study on the college athletes.
Yeah.
Right. You
Yeah.
know, oh, well, manliness, do you want a sausage or a carrot? Like,
Right. Right.
like we all know the talking points.
So what angle would you have her either retreat to or go forward towards?
Mm-hmm. Well, so there's three ways to have the conversation. One is that we initiate it, right? And this is very common. It's okay at work. Like if you have someone that you're working with and you're kind of responsible for the deliverables, you can say, hey, can we talk about something? I'm struggling with this. Can we talk about it together? And you can bring it up. That's the hardest way to do it, especially when it's none of your business. Like, hey, can we talk about your meat eating?
Yeah.
Right. The easiest way is someone comes to you and say, hey, I'd like help with this. I want to change. Right. Then it's, okay, great. Let's roll up our sleeves. There's a middle ground. There's silver platter opportunities that come up that we miss all the time because we don't know how to recognize them. And my favorite one is complaint. So, I used to get really annoyed when people complained. Right. And my definition of complaint is expressing dissatisfaction without attempting to do anything about it. Right. And, it's a pretty common thing. We can all fall into that. But when somebody complains about something that's even tangentially related to the thing that I want to talk to them about, now I see it as a huge opportunity. So does the husband ever say, boy, I wish I had more energy. Boy, I wish I had a better, bowel health. Boy, like, is there anything that bothers the husband about his life that you can, with our knowledge, we can relate to the diet? And then say, well, it sounds like, and then empathize, and then we won't just jump in
like lying in wait.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And again, let's get curious. What's this like? All right. And so, there's if people are looking for sort of a direct path, there's no direct path. There's the Advaita meditators talk about the backward step, right? If you want to move sort of forward into a spiritual practice, you don't go charging in, but you sort of take a backward step, create space. So the first thing is, if you've been having this argument with your husband for years, it's time to create space. It's time to do something different. I interviewed recently an expert on conflict resolution for my podcast. And there's Jen Goldman-Wetzler, who's done a lot of work with Harvard Negotiation Project, with Middle East, very, very high level, tense negotiations. She says, like, you do all your prep work internally, but the main thing you do is something unexpected, right? In the negotiation, you respond differently than the person expects you're going to respond. And all of a sudden it shakes things up. So if you're used to this fight, say, tell me about that, the weight. What bothers you about it? As opposed to, stop tucking in your shirt. You look fat, right? Or whatever.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Right. To get curious and to create openness in the relationship, until when that husband doesn't feel pressured or judged anymore. Now, all of a sudden, you don't know where the conversation could go. They might be really, really eager to change some things to get different outcomes. And they're just, their pride, like Peter with his third bowl of ice cream, their pride is actually, so we are creating resistance. We are fueling their resistance. It's like they've plugged their resistance into us, and we are the power source for it.
Right. And I think that's a good example, because what you're saying is the reason why I would say I don't try to change other people in general. When I notice it in me, I really try to get busy with me, because I have never really seen this sort of technique that you're talking about, it's never seemed like something that would work well for me. And so that you have made it into steps, and that you have so many good examples that make me able to visualize those steps, is very intriguing. And I think that people are really going to love reading this, because my default has just been in my, later middle life, was just like, you do you.
Right. And what I was just thinking, I hadn't thought about this before, but when you said earlier, like, and we know we're right, like, I thought of that as sort of a bad thing, right? That belief in my own rightness. Like, of course, the plant-based diet's the best diet, right? Of course, whatever I believe is the right thing to believe. But I think it's actually a really useful part of the process. Because if you truly believe that a plant-based diet is going to help this guy live a better life, even though he's stubborn, he's got all these crazy masculine beliefs tied to food and identity. But if you really know in your heart that your way is better, that gives you the opportunity to let go of it. Because you're right. We only hold on with faith to things that we don't really believe in. Like, how hard are you going to try to convince somebody that the sun's going to come up tomorrow?
Right.
Right. You're going to let that go. Right. So the fact that you have this faith in the rightness of your path means you can let go of it and just let nature take its course. Let the conversation flow. And if he becomes open to experiment, know that the experiment is going to prove itself to him once he becomes willing. Like, what we really want people to do is not to change in a particular direction. We want them to try new things. Right. So, honestly, I don't know if a plant-based diet is the best diet. I mean, I've staked my career on it, but honestly, I'm humble enough to say, like, there might be research out there that I don't know about. There might be people for whom having some animal products is beneficial. There might be ways. I mean, if I look at indigenous people who all include hunting and trapping in their diets, I can't say that they're wrong. So just having the humility to say, like, what do you want to try? And let's worship reality rather than our dogmas.
I love that. That's what I the name of this podcast is Vedge Your Best. The coaching I do, I am as strict as I can possibly be. I don't eat any animal products. There are still animal products in my surroundings. I have not taken the liberation pledge and just will not eat with people who eat animal products. There are animal products still in my home. Some things I still use that I have not replaced. So I'm not a fifth, what is it? Level 5 vegan from The Simpsons. Nothing with it casts a shadow. But but yet my coaching is always open to anybody wherever they are. And because I don't know what other people should do for their health. I have my ethical views, and I also know that they came after I spent some time being open to the health concept. And to me, it's a process for most people. So I think this is a wonderful, this humility is important with any of us who would like a different result around us. Not just clients, but in our families, in our careers, among our coworkers. It's super important, that idea of being curious and humble.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you can't give advice, right? So if you have developed expertise and experience, we don't want to withhold that from people, but we don't want to beat them with it either, right? So the advice is really useful if someone says, hey, like someone was, I had a call with an old friend yesterday morning who has been vegetarian for many, many years, but never vegan, and could love dairy and eggs and processed foods. And she's got a lot of joint problems, and she needs to lose weight, and she wants to reduce inflammation. And now she's asking me all these questions like, what can I do instead of bread? Or how can I enjoy this? And when, actually asking for advice. And so partly I was saying, well, tell me some things you like, or what have you tried? So I'm not just replacing her own natural, because the second power of change is independent capability. So for example, if I just tell you what to eat every day, then you're dependent upon me to tell you what to eat every day. But there were moments where I was like, hey, she loves soup, and she's always had soup with bread, and she doesn't want to have the white bread anymore. What can she do? Have you ever baked chickpeas, made them nice and hard like croutons? Right? Like, so I was able to offer that. She's like, oh, that's great. I love that. Let me try that.
Mm.
Right. And I said, well, so what spices do you like? What are some different ways you can prepare them? So now she's developing ownership and going to develop her own independent capability around it. But I wasn't like, some coaches are like, the client has all the answers within them. It's like, no,
I hear what you're saying. Yes. Right. Because I can be like that.
Yeah. It's a lot of the time it's true. It's a good default. Like, I hope the person who does when I get my nasal surgery to fix my deviated septum, I hope that person wasn't trained by someone who said all the answers are within you.
Of course. Right. Yes. And I think the idea of the client knowing what's right or having the answers is that they will now find the answers when they're open to finding them. And all the answers were probably there. A lot of the information was there for them all along, but they've, for some reason, closed themselves off to it. But I agree with you. I want my physician to have studied a little bit of other people's wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. So there are 4 basic steps. Do you want to mention what those 4 parts are for, because this all comes a lot from this idea of emotional courage that I know that you talk about, that Peter Bregman's written about, that a lot of coaches use, this idea that if you're willing to feel uncomfortable, if you're willing to feel that what's keeping us from doing things is our reticence or our what's the word? Our discomfort with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what are the 4 parts that of this process in terms of you can change other people?
Right. So we started out, we had permission was the first step, and then outcome and opportunity and plan. And then we realized the acronym was POOP, which we thought was a marketing problem. So we went back to step 1 and realized it wasn't about permission. That was sort of an outcome of the step, but what the orientation of the step was allyship, that you're an ally as opposed to a critic. So we changed it to alley-oop. And as a basketball fan, alley-oop is the pass that you make to a teammate to allow them to dunk. So that's my mnemonic: ally and then oop. Outcome, opportunity, and plan. So ally is the first step. It's sort of an internal step, and it ends with the person saying, yes, I'd love to think this through with you. And by the way, I hope everybody buys the book, but if you don't, like, take away that phrase. And I got this, this is Peter's work. Instead of, would you like help with that? Or would you like me to help you solve it or figure it out? His phrase is, would you like to think that through together? And that's such a beautiful phrase. First of all, it's very hard to say no.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy if you really don't want to, but it's very non-threatening. It's not like, would you like help with that? Like, we don't, there's so many reasons you might say no to help. One is, oh, you don't want to bother me. Another is, you don't want me, stomping around in your brain with my muddy boots. But if you say, well, would you like to think that through together? It's such a generous and gentle offer. So I just love that phrase.
Yeah,
So
I agree. That's a great
ally ends with that, with them feeling like you're on their side, you're supporting them, you want what they want for themselves, and you're going to work with them to help them get it. So then the next step is outcome. And this has changed how I coach, because, talking to someone, okay, what's the problem? Then I would just go right into, well, tell me about it. Tell me what's been happening. Tell me, what have you tried? And what Peter taught me was, before you go there, establish what's a positive outcome that they want. Because now, and you have to work on this a little bit. I want to lose the weight. I want to get off my diabetes meds. I don't want to feel so bad, right? All of those are negatives. Right. Those are all avoid negatives. So we want the outcome. We want to help them get to an outcome that's positive, specific, and meaningful. All right. And so the book, step 2 talks about how to get to those 3 qualities of what we call an energizing outcome. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we are now ready for step 3, opportunity. And the goal of step 3 is, how is the problem that they're facing an opportunity to achieve that outcome, as opposed to an obstacle to that outcome? Because the outcome, the energizing outcome, is usually bigger than I want to lose weight.
Yeah, that's the one you call the upside and the downside. Is that the part? Yeah, I like that term too.
Yeah, that there's almost, that what people really want is growth, is happiness, is a bigger thing. The problem is usually a symptom of the presenting problem, the thing they're stuck on, the thing that annoys them, the thing they're struggling with, is usually a symptom of a bigger opportunity that they're not taking advantage of. And so it's almost like, when if you go walking around with indigenous people who gather food, you look at the landscape and you can't see anything, but they'll see, oh, there's a root under there. How did you know that? Oh, well, it's, it's my home. I know, that leaf there, or the undulation of the sand, or the tracks of a beetle, like whatever it is, told you that, okay, so there's something on the surface there, but there's nourishment underneath. And so I want, so once we have the outcome, we can then return to the problem. So tell me about the problem. Tell me how it manifests. Tell me, what have you tried? Take me there, help me see it in your life. And all while now, because it's juxtaposed against the outcome that they want, we can begin to see that the problem is actually not a wall, but a door.
Yeah, I love that. There are a lot of great examples in the book about this idea that maybe in an office, we see the problem as that coworker, that he or she is doing something, and we want to fix or get rid of or neutralize that coworker, but that's the wall. We want to fix the wall. But what we want is to have a more positive, more productive situation at work. We want to be able to communicate with other people. We want to have a more growth experience at work. It's a great analogy to look at that, the wall and the door. I love that.
Yeah, because we all want the problem to go away.
Yeah.
But if the problem just went away, and I can talk about so many people that I know who have been morbidly obese, and they have lost the weight. And if I ask them, if you could go back to the time you were morbidly obese and, snap your fingers and the weight would come off, would you have taken that path? Mm-hmm. And they're all like, no way. The weight was the least important thing. What was important, I was talking to Andrew Taylor, SpudFit, about what, his journey was like, oh, thank God I was 100 pounds overweight, because that was the opportunity to heal my addiction, to get to know myself, to do this hard thing, to go to the gym, the mental gym every day. Like, that made me the person I am. I know so many people who have recovered from serious illness, who are in remission from cancer, who say, thank God that disease woke me up to what's important. Yeah. Right? Now, we don't want to tell that to people. Like, if someone's got a problem, we don't want to say, oh, that's yay. I'm so glad you have cancer.
Yeah.
Right. That's a little insensitive.
Right.
But for me, the litmus test of a good opportunity step and then moving further into the plan is that the person's going to look back and say, thank goodness I had this problem. Because this problem was the doorway to something so much more important, so much bigger.
Yeah. Now that's it. Yeah, that's an interesting area, because I find some people much more, well, obviously in any given moment, people are shut down to that in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of bad news or a diagnosis or a family, tragedy. But some people do have that underlying sense of like, there's something in this for me. I'm going to get something from this. Is that, do you think that's I tend to think it tends to be a little bit ingrained in the personality, but I don't know. I have no science for that. You work with so many people. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm guessing that there's probably a genetic component. There's probably a condition component. I mean, the question is sort of academically interesting. It's practically interesting only to the extent that it guides practice, right? So if I say, well, that's, like, I'm not going to like coach someone to go from 5'10" to 6'3", right? Because that's, I don't feel like I have that much control over that.
Right.
But so as long as people can shift, largely this relates to the work that I do around trauma. And, if your nervous system perceives the world as an unsafe place, it's very hard to maintain positive thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's why this whole idea of affirmations and positive thinking, and even the whole premise of cognitive behavioral therapy, that dysfunctional thoughts lead to dysfunctional behaviors. Well, if someone their nervous system is in a certain state that is precluding certain thoughts, and then you tell that person that their problem is their thoughts, now they're doubly effed.
Yeah.
now they know better and they still can't do better. Now what's wrong with them? Right? So, I mean, part of I feel like the 4 steps themselves can be healing, in that we're, just as a coach, one of the things we're doing is creating a space for people to be accepted for who they are, right? No judgment zone. Someone comes and talks to you about their problem, even if they can't figure out, even if they don't solve it, they leave feeling normal. They leave feeling okay about themselves. They leave feeling respected,
Right.
and valued. And I think that's healing all by itself.
Yeah, when you can hold space for somebody and just really hold, if you can do nothing else, you can listen with respect and a certain level of human to human love.
Yeah. And I mean, I ask people this in the coach training that I do. Can you think of a time when you felt totally listened to, where someone was completely present for you? And most people can, but it's like a rare occurrence. It's like something they remember for the rest of their lives. Right? Like I remember I met Sylvia Boorstein, who's a Buddhist writer. I met her at a conference and I spoke to her for maybe 8 seconds. It might not have been that long. And in that 8 seconds, she sort of smiled, looked me in the eye, took my hand, and made me feel like I was the most important person she had ever met. That has stayed with me. And it was on a line. It was like, there was no like illusion that this was just me and her. Like there were 20 people in front of me. There were 70 people behind me. Like, and still the being seen by her had that impact. And this would have been like in 1995. This is almost 26 years ago. And it has stayed with me.
Yeah, and it's such an example of what we all have some ability to do, no matter what our training, no matter what our background or our interests, or we can always show up for one another. Maybe not to the level of practiced, that Sylvia Boorstein did, but we can somehow show up with tremendous concentration and focus and respect for other people. When all else fails.
Yeah, when all else fails, be kind.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, we started writing the book as a coaching manual. Like we were thinking about it as here's taking our coaching methodology, and as we started writing, we realized we wanted to do something bigger. We wanted to make this a book for, like, coaching is such a cool skill set, and it's hard. It's counterintuitive. Like we have to resist natural human impulses to jump in, to give advice, to judge, to criticize, to do, right? Like the act of creating space is something that we had to practice and get good at. And so to offer that to the general public, to say, like, here are, like, we all want to see the people around us happy and not suffering and not struggling. And to say, here are tools, and you think you can't change other people because the ways you try to help them actually make things worse. But here are tools and a process that can, it's not going to work 100% of the time. The book is, you can change other people, not you definitely will change other people in every circumstance. but it felt important to us to democratize these skills, because at the very least, people are going to become just better at being kind to each other.
I agree. I can't think of a environment where you could not use the information in this book. Any kind of environment, whether it's in education, whether it's in business, certainly in coaching. Obviously, we can use this all the time. It is one of those things where you can change other people, and at the very least, you yourself will, I think, change for the better by using those processes. You will find yourself a better colleague and a better employer and a better coach, and a better client, even if you are looking to be coached by someone else.
Yeah, and it's funny that the meta message of the book is like, we're going to teach you how to change other people. Like, so we're going to try to change you.
Right. Right.
And obviously there's limitations to how deeply you can be in interactive relationship in a written text. But we tried to write the book in as respectful a way as possible, so that we, even as we're giving advice and telling people what to do, we were trying to follow our own advice as much as possible.
And you also encourage people to try it, not to like memorize it and get it down perfectly pat, but to begin. And I would think that there's no downside ever to begin with creating an ally. You can always start there, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, just when we look at the news and headlines and the world, like there's so much polarization that we get reinforced for being right with our side, right? And if I post a meme making fun of the people I disagree with, I'll get a lot of positive strokes for that.
Right.
When Ellen DeGeneres is seen at a baseball game cuddling with George W. Bush, she gets vilified. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. And I understand people's negative reaction to a politician who presided over wars. And at the same time, it's hard for me to want to say that any act of human kindness is worthless or is counterproductive.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful concept to even end on, Howard. Nothing's wasted when we're kind.
That's as Peter and I were finishing the book, we were discussing all these things back and forth. We haven't seen each other, in years in person because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But one of the things he said was like, when I use this method, I always feel good afterwards and during. But when I'm clever and judgmental and I'm trying to convince someone and argue, because we wrote a piece for CNN last month about how to talk to the unvaccinated. Yeah. And it was based on, Peter's experience with people very close to him in his life. And of course, like anybody else, he can get angry, combative, excited. And it's just like, when I get that way, even if I'm feeling like really smart and like I win the argument, it feels yucky. It's kind of, there's a residue. But when I follow the 4 steps, I always feel good.
Yeah. That is a very good reminder. And I hope that everybody, if anybody looks like thumbs through it at whatever your local bookstore is and thinks, oh, well, this seems a little bit like executive leadership-y, please consider again, because not only is Howard bringing his concepts of coaching into it, it really is applicable for almost anyone. For even parenting, certainly for parenting. I looked at it. I'm now a grandmother, so I'm re-looking at parenting through my daughter and my 18-month or 17-month-old little grandson. So I'm kind of reliving what I would, how I was when I was an exhausted new mom, and what I would do differently. And my daughter asks for advice, and I often say, I have zero idea. I don't know. I'm very out of date for all that, but I do in my head think about it all the time. And this idea, just having read the galleys of your book, this idea of first asking for permission, being an ally, thinking about the outcome. I mean, you just can't go wrong using that and being reminded to use it.
Thank you. And I just got this hit, like, to say to your daughter, I have no idea, is actually a beautiful entree to a conversation, right? Because now she's like, I would, if someone said, I have no idea, like I'd go back to them. I said, hey, can I, can I talk to you about this problem, as opposed to someone who has all the ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, not this grandma. I don't have any idea. No, because I didn't think I was such a success to be. I mean, in the long run, I feel like we were very successful with our kids because they're wonderful and they're still very, very close to us. But in the details, no, I don't know. It was crapshoots and luck and sometimes some wisdom, I'm sure. But so yeah, maybe that has been maybe that keeps that line of communication open more. Maybe we should all try that. I don't know.
It's funny. Peter Bregman has a TEDx talk called "I Don't Know,"
Oh,
in which so he sometimes calls himself the world's expert on not knowing.
well, that's great. I'm going to look for that. I'm going to put some of the things we've referred to in the notes for the show. So if people are interested, they can just kind of thumb through for some of that. I will try and find the link for the TED Talk, because I think that's one. Because in coaching, this is that's curiosity without the agenda, to really just kind of ask questions, poke holes in the stories, and see if those stories hold. If you as a client want to keep that story, you are welcome to keep it, right?
Yeah. Well, just as a coach, I mean, how many times are you working with someone in the first 5 minutes, you know the answer, and you're just sort of waiting for the thing to finish so you can give them the answer, or waiting for them to discover the answer. And then 20 minutes in, you realize, oh, that was totally wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always a very sickening feeling to me when I feel like I know how this should work. I find that kind of sickening because I feel like now that means I'm not in the space with my client. So, but yeah, it happens.
Yeah. So for us, the practice is, oh yeah, look, there it is. There's the illusion of knowledge. It feels so good. Let's put that down. Let's come back.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, Howard. I'm going to have all the links. I hope everybody who's listened to this will pre-order. I don't know, can you pre-order at all the independent bookstores too? I suppose you can. I know Amazon is helpful for some of the publisher type of metrics that they use, right?
Yeah, Amazon definitely helps us the most. And so I would say, if at all possible, get it from your local independent bookstore.
That's very nice. Okay, so there's good reasons for both. And the title of the book is I'm just going to make sure I don't say it wrong. You Can Change Other People: The 4 Steps to Helping Colleagues, Employees, and Even Family Up Their Game. And Howard's podcast is Plant Yourself.
Plant Yourself at
right.
plantyourself.com.
And you have, how many episodes are out there now, Howard?
I took down a bunch.
Oh.
But the number for this week is 478.
Wow.
I took down a bunch of people who went a little crazy during COVID.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna ask you off camera who they were. Because I have one springs to mind, but okay. All right. So, but you have a lot, and and Howard, very often my podcast, I only have maybe an interview per month, but most of yours now are interviews, right?
The whole time. I've only done, I think, 3 where it was just me talking. I really admire people like who can just talk for an hour and
like Sid,
like Sid and you, like, and that's I do interviews because it's easier.
Well, okay, so that's gonna be great. So Plant Yourself is a wealth of information, and so I've talked about you a million times, but that I want everybody to follow you, subscribe to your podcast too, because then there will also be more information about the book as it comes out, and any extra, are there bonus chapters that you're going to be announcing, or PDFs or things like that you'll be announcing, do you think, as the book comes out?
Yeah, so there's some pre-order bonuses. We were told to create pre-order bonuses, which are it's actually 3 people. We surveyed my list and Peter's list, say what's the thing you'd want the most, and the favorite thing was demos of the 4 steps, like live actual demos of us taking people through the process. So I did 2, Peter did 1. And it's going to come with a cheat sheet, so you'll get those right away, so you can listen and sort of follow along with the 4 steps. And then when the book comes out, you'll get all the background stuff. But we've also created a lot of extra resources for the book. We have, I think, 9 dialogues that are not in the manuscript. We just felt it was going to be just sort of too overwhelming, and we weren't sure how to annotate them. So they're going to be sort of annotated, interactive. So the dialogue, and then along the side is going to be like, we did this from chapter 4.
Oh, I see.
Right? So
okay.
that's where that statement came from, so that people can understand, can see it in practice.
Wonderful.
And various cheat sheets, and I'm starting to make audios. Like I realized, like, I do a thing before I start working with someone. I do a 3-minute body scan for myself, and then go into my intentions. So I turned that into an audio so people can use that, to help prepare for step 1, to become an ally.
So that there's a lot of benefits to pre-ordering your book then.
Yes, mostly to me, and Peter, but also to you. I mean, yeah, that's why we're bribing people, because it helps us so much.
No, that's good. It's good. People have gone through all this work to write and create something that didn't exist in the world. We want to support them. So, all right, Howard, thank you very much for. I've taken up too much of your time. We're over an hour, so I really appreciate you coming on. And I will do the outro and tell all the ways that people can connect with you in the future. Thank you, Howard.
Michele, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you, and it means a lot to me. I wish we'd gotten your blurb earlier, when we could have put it on the jacket of the book, because I feel better about the book from this conversation. Like, this really can help people. So I really appreciate that reflection from you.
Oh, good. Anything I can do to help, you just call on me. Thanks, Howard.
Awesome. Talk to you later.
Okay. What did you think? Was I super nervous? I am a big fan of Howard and his work. If you are at all new to the plant-based or vegan worlds, I hope that you're going to include Howard and Plant Yourself every week. That's what I mean about curating your feed. Including people, conversations, and ideas that are really going to help support you in any changes that you're trying to make, and to support you in the intelligent conversations that you're going to want to take part in or have around your lifestyle. I've put some of the things we discuss in the show notes, including the link for the new book, You Can Change Other People, the 4 steps to help your colleagues, employees, even family up their game. And there's also a link to Peter Bregman's TED Talk that Howard referred to in our conversation. Today we discussed the 4 steps to change others in general, but you will find a wealth of information in the book. You're going to find a lot. There are sample scripts. There are possible ways of phrasing things that work better or work less well, according to the research. And you are going to find ways to make those 4 steps simpler and more natural for you. And I love how Howard encourages us to get busy, get started in trying to implement them. So in the meantime, if you haven't read the book yet, let's all try to implement Howard's first step for changing others. And that's showing up as an ally rather than a critic. I think we can all struggle with that sometimes, but we can all do that. So thanks for joining me today, and go put Howard in your social media feed. And if you're listening in early September, consider pre-ordering his book. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.